Thank you so much, everyone. We have a few more great speakers as we finalize today's introductory and inaugural session. We have speeches coming up now by our guests of honor, and it's my pleasure to introduce Professor AFM Maniruzzaman from Cambridge University. He is the chair professor in international and business law at the University of Portsmouth, UK, since 2004. He has acted as a tribunal chairman, an arbitrator, a counsel, an expert, a consultant in multi-million-dollar international arbitrations, including some very high-profiled ones for ICSID, ICC, and IICRA cases. He also acted as an international legal consultant to the Commonwealth Secretariat, their headquarters in London, government and state-owned enterprises, multinational corporations, multinational law firms, including of the Magic Circle. He is also a Harvard-trained mediator and negotiator and a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in London. He has served as the honorary special advisor, particularly in consultation in international legal matters, to the Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh from 1996 to 2001. He is an advocate of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh since 1983. He's also been a visiting professor and senior academic advisor in positions at the Universities of Oxford, Cambridge in London, Kent, Dundee, and Peking, Western University in Canada, and China University of Political Science and Law in Beijing. He has been an editor on the international editorial and advisory boards of a number of reputed international legal periodicals, including Manchester Journal of International Economic Law, the JIEL, OGEL, Manchester Journal of Transnational Islamic Law and Practice, the Transnational Dispute Management CSIS Journal on Transnational Law, and Professor Maniruzzaman is interested in poetry and also writes poems in Bengali and English, which I think is such a lovely thing to have that kind of background in both sides of the human experience, the legal and the poetic. It's an honor to have you, Professor. The floor is yours.
So thank you very much, the chair of the conference and the attendants from the rest of the world. Sorry, I shouldn't just go by the list to save the time, but it's an honor to be invited to, say some words, few words to this august occasion. Right now, basically, in the context of sustainable development, there are lots to say, and where I should start really is very difficult to pinpoint, but I'll say some specific things. As you'd know, that I was working with the OECD, UNESCO, on a multi-year sort of project on sustainable development law, and it culminated, in some publication of 3 volumes, actually 4 volumes, of the title of International Sustainable Development Law, Volume 1, 2, 3, under the auspices of the UNESCO and the Encyclopedia of Life Support System. It's available online on their website. Now, looking at this scenario of international sustainable development law in general, and more particular in the context of inclusivity of the population, the sort of various victims of climate change, I think I have something to say here. When you talk about inclusivity, then of course there are lots of things that you can consider who should be considered under the panoply of the concept of sustainable development and also sustainability. These are 2 different concepts. Sustainable development is more focused, and sustainability is a general concept, and you can philosophize from any angle you'd like to do, but I shouldn't get into that philosophical arguments or all the nitty-gritty of this sort of things. But the basic thing that I want to say that who do we understand by the victims of climate change? And education needs to be there. For example, what law says about the victims. Who are the victims of the adverse effect of climate change? And also, what does the social science consideration will bring to bear on this very concept of victims? It's not defined yet. In no legal text will you see the perfect definition of the victims. And the concept is very evolving in the sense that many things are coming along with that concept. It's like a rope, to your waist with all lots of pans and pots with it. And if you move, and there will be buzzing sounds, right? There will be buzzing sounds, in various ways. Exactly, there shouldn't be any sort of a specific uniform tune. So now the courts, more specifically, the European Court of Human Rights, in light of human rights, has recently, defined who could be the victims. In the beginning of April this year, the European Court of Human Rights has rendered a judgment, very well, sort of deserved judgment, interpreting the European Convention of Human Rights and who the victims could be. The case is known just, popularly as the climate case. Whether the victims would be intersectoral victims. I mean, young, old, sort of very old and completely destitute people, and all sorts of people, who are not counted in the society, all sorts of aborigines, for example, and various other types of people, whether they should be open to the remedies available for climate justice, right? And of course, in that case, the main fact was that in Switzerland, a group of women, very old, elderly women, they tried in the national court in Switzerland to get remedy against the climate change. The government, because the government was not taking appropriate action to protect their rights to life, not making any kind of laws or enforcement for that, so that there should be human rights established and protected in respect of climate vulnerability. So this judgment of the European Court of Human Rights is a watershed judgment, and that will have a ripple effect, not only within the European region, but throughout the whole world, because the national courts wanted to avoid many complicated things about climate change because they're not very sure of. Even the human rights conventions didn't specifically define, the kind of status of the victim, who the victims are. I mean, they have rights, in all sorts of forms and shapes, but who the victims are, the victim status, is not defined in Article 4 of the European Court of Human Rights, Article 8 of the European Court of Human Rights, in various other provisions of the European Court of Human Rights. Now, this is for the first time ever the European Court of Human Rights, has put all its acts together to specifically define at this very crossroads, when the climate change is impacting various spheres of society, different types of people, from developing countries to developed countries, from all sorts of regions in the world. And now this court judgment will be analyzed, examined, researched into every word, single word of it, and then all the sort of human rights courts, climate change litigation sort of venues, even arbitrations, will take it seriously to expand various implications of that provision. And one of the kind of revolving aspect of that judgment is the inclusivity, the victim status. There are lots to say about it. Now, this is for the first time the court has defined what should be the victim status. Okay, that's fine. Now, let's look at other implications of judgments for various other climate change litigations. From these kind of judgments, there are cases taken by young people to various courts. The Portuguese case, the Swedish case, and many other cases under various kind of sort of ideas, whether it's a breach of human rights, it's a breach of climate change law, or it's a breach of all sorts of other specific rights of the human beings. So climate change litigation is on the rise, and it will affect globally. All the national courts will need to be on their gear to deal with that. And this European Court of Human Rights case has specifically asked national courts to deal with these aspects, squarely, so that the national courts should be put on alert, and the national governments will be also serious about legislating, clarifying many aspects of law so that the law can be applied quite effectively. So that's the kind of a stage. The rhythm has started, and that will have a ripple effect, right? Now, time is short. I don't want to go much into it. There are other speakers who are passionately waiting to, say their wise words. So I stop here, just, putting the sort of, setting the sort of tone where we should be from now on, in light of the Klima case decided by the European Court of Human Rights. Thank you so much for your kind patience.
Thank you so much, Professor Maniruzzaman. Again, having the care and the passion for humanity as a whole is vital in how we approach these issues. And the legal angle is something that many people outside of our conferences and our events might not think about, but it's so vital for the long-term success of how we approach climate change and these issues and challenges. So thank you for your work, and thank you so much for highlighting that very important aspect.